everybody. So, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me good? Are we fine? Okay, good. I'll speak out then. Monsieur le censeur, dear not here Secretary Generals of the FDA,
Shame.
dear Honorable Social Officer of the FDA, dear parents, friends, families, dogs, cats, dear members of the government, members of the opposition, good evening to all. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Peter Barrett. I'm the coach here at Ecole, alsacienne, and I try to coach to the best of my ability these debaters here on the right and some more. And I'm also the PR officer at the French Debating Association. Now, I'm very proud and honored to be hosting you tonight, and hopefully this will be a great debate. The ABA is an old and a wise institution built a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. In this Bermuda Triangle outside of Paris called Massy-Palaiseau-Saclay, which is in fact where Polytechnique is. 23 years ago, a great teacher that is still our mentor and our president, Declan McCavan, created this institution, making it the first English debating association in France. And it is still, and it remains, it will remain for many, many centuries, and the biggest debate society in France. And we joined all those people together since 1994 for a great debating tournament. This year, on the university level, 19 teams debated through more than 20 matches through the month of January to March to get a spot at the final at the Assemblée Nationale, as it is the case each year. And this year, Nanterre won the title, and we're very proud. That's the case. We have a Nanterre representative here, so let's give a round of applause. That was an amazing performance on the part of Nanterre. It was their first time in the FDA, and they did a great job, so that was great for them. But now we turn to a different kind of event, a kind of event that we created only about a year ago, when we decided that high school students should get an opportunity at this too. Because universities and grandes écoles are the only ones who should be able to debate. And so we're very proud to be able to join at least 4 schools now in Paris and more next year into this high school debating tournament in English. And we have in front of us tonight, that's going to happen, the second debate of, the second semi-final, we should say, of this incredible high school tournament. The first one took place last week on 29th of November. Not November, that was not November, no, that was March. I'm 6 months away. So on 29th of March, and it opposed Henri IV and our dear friend from Ecole Massillon. Henri IV won that debate, and tonight we have the second debate with the people from Ecole alsacienne and from lycée Camille Sée opposing each other to get a second spot at the final, which will be taking place next Tuesday, 12th of April, at Assas in the Salle de Fête, if you want to come. 12 Place du Panthéon in the 5e. Just putting it out there. That's not my personal address, so don't worry. And tonight, so those wonderful young people will be debating a very interesting topic, I thought, and I did not choose it, so I can say that without any regard, so who choose that. This house would choose happiness rather than the truth. Obviously, this will be a very interesting government led by Ecole alsacienne. Give them a round of applause. And an opposition led by Camille Sée. Give them a round of applause. So the way the debates work is that each speaker has 5 minutes of speaking time. And the way it goes is that every team alternatively speaks with one speaker addressing the floor. During that time, during those 5 minutes, you will hear some bells ringing. And that doesn't mean that it's Christmas. It just means that, you know, we're trying to refer to some time constraints. So at the end of the first minute, you will hear this. That means the floor is open to questions from the opposite side. People can stand up with a standing up such as this, with a hand on their head and a hand set outright, asking a question, an open question to the speaker. The speaker can accept or refuse that question before it is asked, in which case, if it's refused, the person will sit back down. If it's accepted, then they will stand up and ask their question. Now, at the end of those, of the fourth minute, because it's a 5-minute speech, as I would like to remind you, you will hear this, signifying the end of the allotted time for open questions. And at the end of the 5th minute, you will hear this, which means that the speaker will have to stop speaking. And if that person goes over time by quite a bit, you'll hear that, until the person stops speaking. Great, now that we got this sorted, we also like to point out that you can ask points of orders on the floor. And it's a very uncommon thing, but it can happen. If you feel that debate is running against the rules, that they're not regarded, or that you feel personally attacked, you can ask a point of order at any moment. The time will be stopped, and the chair will consider that point of order, whether righteous or not. Now, in order to judge those debaters, we have a great jury for us tonight. We got 3 wonderful people that came voluntarily here, and I don't know why they would do that, but voluntarily here tonight to judge these debaters. First, and we got an ASAS 2016 competitor, Gregory Jernidieu. Sorry, yeah, that's right, yeah. Jernidieu? Yeah. Handwriting is terrible. And then from Nanterre, I got a 2016 competitor, Yael Dadou. Is that right? Yeah. And from NCA's team this year, we got Manuel Tono. So these 3 wonderful young people will be judging those debaters on 4 main criteria. First, content, presentation, and teamwork, and what we call the je ne sais quoi in the FDA, the star quality, the independent quality of the debater. Now these all equally have an equal footing in judging, and so it will be kindly considered by the judges. But it's also the case that there is a best team, of course, that will win, but there's also always a best speaker that comes from the losing team, because you also want to recognize that even if you lose, you will have put a lot of effort and a lot of good quality in your speeches, and so you will deserve also to be, have one speaker named best speaker. But it's not just the jury that has to, have their say heard. Also, the audience should be heard. And so we like to have you interact a little bit with the debate. So when you hear something you like, I'd like you to say something like, "Here, here." So can you please have a go at it for me? So what if you like it? Yeah. If you like something, what do you say? Here, here. Great, okay, perfect. And if you don't like something, if you really think like, that's a shame, right? Well, you should say shame, shouldn't you? So I like to hear that from you too. What about if you don't like what's going on? Shame. All right, can we do it again, please? Shame. Okay, great. Now that we all understand the rules of this debate, I think without further ado, we should hear the Prime Minister from Ecole debating this motion. Margot, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Fellow members of the jury, incredibly happy members of the government, soon to be happy members of the opposition, dear Belgo, beautiful chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The government comes to you tonight submitting the idea that we should choose happiness rather than truth. Let me start by underlining 2 words, rather than. This means that either you are happy without knowing the truth, or you are unhappy knowing the truth. You have the choice between both. During the next half hour, Emma, Alicia, Pierre, and Pierre 2.0 will make you happy by proving to you that the best choice is happiness. First of all, what is happiness? We will define it not as a brief flash of contentment, but as a long feeling of well-being, which describes an entire life rather than just one emotion. Happiness, as we define it, is the main purpose of the human being. We are all looking for a happy life.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
Aristotle shared the same point of view than us, and I think most of you guys, when he said, happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and end of the human existence.
Here.
This quote says that for humans, the goal of being happy takes over every other goal in our lives, including seeking truth. Now, I'll tell you a story. Once upon a time, a little girl named Smiley was looking at a beautiful sun disappearing behind the sea and asked her dad, "Dad, tell me the truth. Why does sometimes the sun fall in the water?" "It doesn't fall, sweetheart," answered the dad. "The sun goes around the earth." "Oh, is that true, Daddy?" "Yes, sweetie. The earth is stationary, and the other planets, including the sun, turns around the earth, because earth is the center of the universe."
Shame.
Now let me ask you, do you think this dad was telling the truth to his daughter?
No.
Yes, of course he was. But what is truth? This is much harder to define, since the truth is not the same for everyone. At least we could say that truth is a statement about the way the world actually is. But do you really think the truth today was the same yesterday and will change and will stay unchanged tomorrow? Or do you think that everyone sees the truth as being the same thing? Of course not.
Here.
The truth is very subjective. Often what we call truth doesn't correspond with the reality, but it's a knowledge we have at this time. Because we know the truth through the experiences we had, and these experiences are subjective. But this might be too philosophical. So don't worry, Nietzsche won't be part of the game tonight.
Here.
But my point is that happiness is not an absolute. Feeling it is enough to be happy. But most of the time, what you think is truth isn't really. And it is in that way that it will not serve its purpose.
Here.
My teammates are going to prove you with more concrete words that we need to choose happiness over the truth. First, Emma will explain you how happiness is the first thing that humans are looking for in their lives, and how knowing the truth can't make you change. And furthermore, the truth hurts. Then Alicia will tell you how truth can be a barrier to happiness and how the pursuit of the truth will keep you forever dissatisfied. Our third speaker, Pierre, will explain you that dreams based on illusions can help you to move forward. To conclude, Pierre 2.0 will summarize all our arguments and will tell to everyone, to our greatest happiness, that they are lying. For all these reasons, I beg you to not worry, be happy, and accept this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margot. Please go up on the leader of the opposition. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Wise members of the jury, fellow teammates of the opposition, as of yet unenlightened but happy members of the government, wonderful bell person, ladies and gentlemen. In the movie The Matrix, Morpheus poses Neo with a choice between two pills, a red pill and a blue pill. Morpheus holds out his hands like this and says, "Take the blue pill and the story ends. You'll wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. Take the red pill and you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more." Of course, Neo picks the red pill, or else there would be no awesome movie. But did he choose correctly? He needed to control his own destiny. It is, after all, what makes us human. He could not stay in the Matrix. The Matrix is just a lie. It is a lie that the government here is trying to force feed us.
Shame. Here.
But what would have happened if he'd stayed in the Matrix? Would he have been happy then? Before having been pulled out by the rebels, his intelligence was already noticing that things were not right. He'd already been put on the potential troublemaker list, and even before Morpheus had contacted him. Had he stayed in the lie, he would surely have been deleted due to his natural curiosity and his desire for truth. The same thing happens, has historically happened in the real world when people question a government that has been lying to their people, as we're later going to point out. And what about you? Would you shield yourself from the truth and knowledge in order to maintain a false sense of happiness? Would you stop reading the news in order to not feel compassion for the suffering Syrian refugees? Would you ban all science simply because it disproves your preconceived ideas? During these last Oscars, did you turn off your television just before they announced the best speaker for fear of it not being Leonardo DiCaprio?
Here, here.
Closing your eyes to things does not make them not happen. People need knowledge in order to make good decisions. This is what makes democracy work. You need a knowledgeable population with easy access to information. The ignorant masses are easily led. This is shown in historical examples and in a lot of dystopian universe novels, such as Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, George Orwell's 1984, Lois Lerry's The Giver, or even in Donald Trump's electoral victories. The idea that learning can be dangerous to one's happiness leads to a willful shunning of knowledge. We are going to show beyond the shadow of a doubt that this can never be a good thing. As Benjamin Franklin said, we are all born ignorant, but one must work hard to remain stupid. Our addiction expert, Kenny, is going to prove that ignorance does not promise happiness. Then our ancient cultures expert, Elif, will show that truth is what provides happiness. And after that, our modern historian, Helena, will show that if you do not know the truth, you cannot act against it. And finally, our conclusion, Lucy, will wrap this whole thing up and make you more knowledgeable and happier than you were before.
Here, here.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please take the red pill and accept this motion.
On Emma for a speech, and now you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Woo!
Dear fellow members of the government, members of the opposition, distinguished chairman, most accurate bellgirl, honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Today, we would choose happiness rather than the truth. I will show you how happiness will always triumph over the truth. Firstly, I will talk to you about each one's goal in life. How people always choose happiness and ignores the truth. And then, how the truth can sometimes be hurtful and destroy our hope, therefore our happiness. But first, let me rebuttal on a few points. You said that if we didn't know the truth, then we would live in a false illusion. But if you're happy and you don't know the truth, how can you know that this happiness is false?
Here.
My first point is that happiness is the most important thing for a human being. People are always looking for happiness. Don't we all want to have a great career, to build a family, to have friends, to be healthy, to love and be loved?
Here, here.
It is a fact that happiness really is a necessary to survive.
Here, here.
It is recommended by all therapists and doctors you will meet. But the truth, if told, disturbs this happiness and keeps us away from having this beautiful and happy life. I read a really interesting article the other day about a study that showed what people would choose between happiness and the truth. Indeed, they chose happiness. The participants of this study were asked to read an essay about caffeine consumption. As you all know, caffeine has positive effects, like the fact that it awakes us and it even can be helpful for memory, but it also has negative effects. It can cause cancer and it makes us really nervous. After reading this essay, knowing the truth didn't change those people's way of life. In the contrary, even if they knew caffeine wasn't healthy, they couldn't stop their daily routine because having the coffee in the morning did make them happy.
Here.
These results are one. Yes?
So you would choose to die and have cancer just to have coffee every morning? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that, because coffee doesn't necessarily cause cancer. So these results are one of the many proofs that people will likely choose happiness and ignore the truth, because they prefer to continue their consumption that involves happiness and ignore the truth. But people do not, but people do not only react in that way with caffeine, but with everything in the world. Even if they have knowledge about something, doesn't mean they will do anything about it. Truth doesn't necessarily bring change. For example, I know that a t-shirt from Zadig and Voltaire has better quality than one from H&M, made in really bad conditions from little children. But also, I will choose to buy this one t-shirt from H&M because it is cheaper and I will wear it. In that way, I choose my own happiness over the truth and the happiness of hundreds of children. Now to my second point. The truth cannot always be told. Of course, we always tell you how bad and horrible it is to not tell the truth and to lie about something, anything. It is, however, sometimes you have to, because it is the choice you make to protect the people you love. For example, if someone asks you about his new haircut, you will tell him that it's beautiful, even if it's not true. Because why would you tell him something so mean, even if it's the truth?
Shame.
The only thing all this nastiness could accomplish is humiliating and hurting this person. That's why parents always tell their children that Santa Claus exists, because they will make their children happy. And for all those reasons, I beg you to don't worry, be happy, and accept this motion.
Thank you very much for your speech. I'd like to call upon Camille for a speech. Camille, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Great members of the jury, friendly teammates of the opposition, erroneous, yet not ignorant, members of the government, excellent bell person, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The members of the government are trying to sell us drugs. They're not even trying to sell us drugs. They're trying to give us drugs for free. They want us to swallow lies so that we can hallucinate of a perfect world where unhappiness does not exist. They're kind of giving out lies like the government in the book Brave New World, in the same way that they give so much to people, which is a drug. Once you take drugs, the immediate effects are relatively good, but you become addicted and you have to take more and more to fuel your addiction. If you don't, then you will suffer withdrawal symptoms. Lies work exactly in the same way. If you protect yourself from the atrocities of life by hiding yourself the truth, you will live in your own little bubble. And on the day that bubble bursts, you will be literally miserable. You can never avoid the bursting of that bubble. Émile Zola once said, "If you shut up truth and bury it under the ground, it will but grow and gather to itself such explosive power that the day it bursts through, it will blow up everything in its way."
Here, here. Here, here.
This is why I propose the following slogan: lies, not even once. After all, humans are made to have the knowledge of the truth, or at least run after it, even develop it. And actually, it is thanks to those who have searched for truth that our world has evolved. So, this is clearly proven by the progression of the human race itself. You may accept ignorance to have happiness. However, deeply inside, there's always that feeling, that certain lack of something. And that comes from human curiosity, because it keeps tickling you, and you always want to know the truth.
Yes. Don't you think the people that invented all this curiosity is over reality? It doesn't existed before, so they had to imagine it.
Can you reformulate the question?
Okay, so because they invented new thing, that's what you're talking about. Yes. They had to imagine further than the truth, the reality.
Yes.
Here.
And so they didn't look to reality to invent this stuff.
Yeah, but by looking further into their imagination, it doesn't mean they were happy. They were just looking for the truth.
Here, here.
Okay, so we always have this feeling of curiosity, and this is because ignorance goes against the ambition of our being. Accepting ignorance will never, ever be completely satisfactory. Lastly, if you do not have the knowledge of the truth and what's around you, it also means that you do not have and cannot have an opinion of your own identity, a life of your own, and, well, basically you have nothing. Everything that makes you human, or the basis of your conscience and your imagination, you don't have.
Shame!
I mean, you may,
Here, here.
in order to enjoy happiness, you must first be human. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, do not ignore your humanity and individuality and reject this motion.
Here,
Kelly, for your speech, I'd like to go along with Alicia for her speech of the board.
Dear happy jury, I guess. Dear chairman, dear Belgier, dear audience, good evening. So first, let me just precise something. If you're looking for truth, you will always be looking for more truth, because truth calls truth. It's what I'm going to prove you tonight.
Here, here.
So basically, you're going to stay unhappy for your whole life, because truth, which is what I'm going to prove here today, just do not bring happiness. It brings only sadness. It keeps you unhappy. And are you ready to spend all your life unhappy, all your life with sadness, with your sad truth? I'm not quite sure. And as a government, we cannot permit this to our people.
Here,
So let me
Here.
just tell you a story. Last Sunday, I went to a restaurant with my dad. It was just awesome. So it's kind of organic restaurant. And the place is very nice. The food is so great. And I had a grass soup and a vegetarian steak. They were so delicious. I really enjoyed this dinner. So we had a really great time. And as we were leaving the restaurant, my dad told me, and very proud of his joke, that this restaurant was famous for cooking with trash. I actually had a soup made of insects, please. And my vegetarian steak was made of compost. And I was just like, ew, this is disgusting. Why did you bring me here? And I just was so disgusted
disgust, and even if the food was just awesome, I will just never go back to this restaurant because I was so disgusted and so disappointed. So, telling the truth isn't the way to happiness. Knowing everything just keeps you unhappy. There are things we don't need to know. If we can have great diners at restaurants, it's because we don't know everything on what's going on with the food. If we can have good relationships with our teachers, it's because we only know from each other what we need to know to just enjoy the time we're spending in class together.
Here, here!
So if you would know everything, you just couldn't stop judging, fearing, despising, and so much more. You can be just fascinated by your history teacher. You can wait all week long for this marvelous 5 hours with him telling stories to the class. But what if you suddenly learn he's addicted to gambling? You just wouldn't respect him anymore. And you would just sit back in class and you wouldn't be listening anymore.
Shame.
So all the happiness brought by history class would be just gone.
Shame.
And why? Because of the truth.
Shame.
So the truth destroys the positive side we see in things, in people, in places. So we agree, that the truth isn't always subjective. But even if it's not, truth destroys happiness anyway. So let's imagine you're walking in the street on a sunny day. April is back, the sun is back, everything is great. So suddenly you're able to see all the old dogs pee on the sidewalk. This is disgusting. You knew they were here before, and yet it's clean. But no, the great difference is that you can see them, and it changes just everything. Before, you would go just without even thinking about them. And now you're trying to get around them, and the pleasure of walking the street under the sun of April is over. And you know why? Because you can't stop thinking about these marks. And you will be disgusted by these marks. So truth does not bring happiness. It destroys it. If you start to focus on what's hidden behind, you'll never stop looking for more truth. And even more, you'll start to care about things you could just perfectly live without, and with what you lived without before, but of which you're insatiable now. So truth does not give you more satisfaction. You live with your life shedding black light on everything you experience, every person you meet, and you're trapped in a vicious circle because truth calls for more truth. And this revelation won't give you more happiness, quite the contrary.
Shame.
So they will push you to find more truth, which will make you even more unhappy. So for all these reasons, I beg you to don't worry, be happy, and accept this motion.
Will upon Ellen for a speech. Ellen, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Truthful members of the jury, naively happy teammates of the opposition,
Shame.
magnificent bell person, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Now, this motion implies that the truth is absolutely always a painful truth that will all make us sad and will hurt us. But this is so wrong, because choosing the truth will make you happy at some point.
Here.
Look at the Bible, Adam and Eve. Okay, they were living happily without knowing anything. They were living in the Garden of Eden. But then they decided to choose the truth. They decided to eat the apple from the tree of knowledge. They found out that they were naked. They were embarrassed, and then they were cast out of Eden. But even embarrassment, this is an emotion. This is what makes reality. When you choose truth, this is what you feel. Embarrassment, you can feel just as other emotions that are so bad. You can feel anger, you can feel pain. Okay, you can feel vengeance, you can feel disappointment. But then you can feel hope, you can feel joy, you can feel desire, you can feel sex. And then there is reproduction, of course. If Adam...
So basically the Bible says that after eating the apple they were unhappy and they regretted so much paradise. So what about that?
They regretted, but then we came. what would you say, like, then if Adam and Eve, they didn't choose the truth, what would have, like, none of us would have been here?
Point of information?
No, thank you. If Adam and Eve hadn't chosen the truth, we would have never been here. You wouldn't have been there. You wouldn't have been there. You guys would have never been there.
Shame.
So, I don't know if you believe in the Bible and Adam and Eve, but this is what we should all be doing. We should choose the truth, and then we should be deciding whether to be happy or not. Choosing the truth doesn't mean that we have to be sad. Just as Aristotle said.
On that point, sir?
Yeah.
So, so you basically said that we choose truth, and then we choose to be happy. But the debate here is between being happy and choosing the truth.
Here!
We can't have both.
When you choose the truth, you assume who you are. You know who you want to be. Isn't that an even better thing than happiness? Because when you know who you are, then you can be happy. You can become happy by choosing the truth. So, as Aristotle said, he asked himself a question. If he could have 10 years of pure blissness, if he could have nothing but happiness, pure joy, and perfect with his family, love, and everyone, would he? And then he would have 10 years of everything that he forgot. He forgot all of the past 10 years that he was really happy. What he chose, he said no, because then it is not happiness, but it's just an ephemeral pleasure that will not last, and happiness is just something for that moment when you forget that more 10 years after, it's just ephemeral, and this is not happiness, it's just pleasure. So just like Aristotle said, we should choose the truth, and then we can become happy by choosing the truth.
Shame!
That is why we should refuse this motion. Thank you.
Number one, please carry up.
Happy fellow members of the government.
Here!
So realist member of the opposition.
Here,
Here! Here!
Beautiful bell girl. Chairman, judges, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. So, tonight this house is here to convince you to choose happiness rather than truth. But before, let me do some rebuttals. So, you said before that in truth you can find happiness, basically. But let me remind you that this motion was made so you can choose between truth or happiness.
Here!
It is clearly written. This is clearly the motion. And you said that in truth you find happiness, so this is not the motion.
Here!
So, and I'm gonna show you that this is not possible, and even more, that believing in your dreams helps you to go forward in life and makes you happy. And so, in happiness, in truth, you cannot find happiness. Yes?
So, basically, I want to become a beautiful ballerina, but I have no coordination, but nobody tells it to me. So you're saying that everybody should like me and let me dance in front of everybody so that I will be happy? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, believe in your dreams. That's
Even though
that's exactly.
No.
Go back, please.
Thank you. And that's exactly what is bringing me to my first one, is that truth hurts. Truth is disappointing, and truth makes you lose your motivation. And truth stops you from moving forward. And so it keeps you away from your biggest dream, which is being happy. And so believing in your dreams, no thank you. Believing in your dreams helps you to be happier without looking to the truth. So first, what is the definition of a dream? It is an ideal representation of what you want to accomplish. So dreams are made to make yourself self-satisfied. So dreams brings happiness into your life.
Here!
And the second characteristic of a dream, it's that it has no limits. So that's what pushes you to go always forward by trying to achieve it. So dreaming is your reason to live. And I'm not the first one saying that. No, thank you. You probably know Mark Twain. And you probably know this quote, which is the most beautiful quote ever. They didn't know it was impossible. So they did it.
Here.
Here, here.
So the notion of impossible brings you back to reality and hiding you from moving forward. For example, my father always told me that with his friends, they were always discussing with the telephone because, you know, at this time, the telephone, you know, with the rolling flashlight was the innovation. And, no, thank you. They were discussing about how it could be in 50 years. And some people were telling that maybe in 50 years, we could see the person who's talking at the phone. We could see the face of him. And without any exceptions, they were all telling that it's physically impossible. Man, go back to reality. We can't see the face of the person talking to you on the phone. Apparently, it was impossible for them. So that means that some people chose to believe, not to believe in reality, but to believe their dreams, which was to make seeing people in front of you in phone. And apparently, 30 years later, they made the impossible, and Skype was invented.
Here.
Here, here.
And that made lots of people happy, in fact, because they were communicating all around the earth. So you see that believing in your dreams helps you to find happiness, which, as the Prime Minister said, is your first goal in life. And that's what brings me to my another point, which is that truth stops you really from being happy, and we don't realize that people sometimes live horrible truth. Let me take the example of someone that you might know, which is Malala, that grew up in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, a Pakistani region where Taliban keep girls away from school. And today, let me remind you that she won Peace Nobel Prize because of her intensive fight for women's rights. So today she's an ideal for women. And to sum up her case, truth wasn't making her happy. So, because the truth she's been through was too far horrible, she decided to believe in her dream and to change the world. So you need to go past the truth and to find happiness. And to finish, let me just tell you this quote from Oscar Wilde, which is, "The truth is rarely pure and never simple." So you see that. If you have dreams, believe in them, because dreams bring you motivation and happiness. So don't fake the truth, go over the truth, and you will see that you will find happiness. So for these reasons, I beg you to not worry, be happy, and accept this motion.
Knowledgeable members of the jury, awesome teammates of the opposing team, members of the government, heavenly bell person, ladies and gentlemen. If you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. Adolf Hitler. In the following argument, we will discuss the disadvantage of not knowing the truth, because it prevents from changing the reality around you. Lies and manipulations have often been used for the profit of an individual and for egocentric means. Of course, if you lied to your mom about having taken money from her purse, the consequences will be minor. But what if you told a lie so big, so important, that it concerns the well-being of humanity? I'm talking about the Holocaust, the Shoah, extermination camps, Auschwitz. Everybody in this room, I hope, is aware of the biggest crime against humanity. Therefore, measures have been taken to be sure that it would never, ever happen again. The other team would like to say that the death camps should have stayed a secret. We would like to state that during the whole World War II, death camps were made a secret. They could have remained a secret indeed, because in Germany, nobody wanted to talk about it or even acknowledge it. The film Le Labyrinthe du Silence tells the story of a German jurist who in 1958, mark me 1958, vowed to make Germany look at its past. Telling the truth is about being mature enough to confront yourself to reality. It is about accepting, moving on, and forgiving.
Here, 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 here.
And you must confront the past, or else someday it will happen to you. There are, of course, many, many risks when you confront yourself to reality, as the other team has said and said and said. In George Orwell's dystopian novel, 1984, the hero, Winston Smith, takes the risk of thinking by himself, in writing in a journal. If you read the novel, you know what happens. But Winston Smith's little insignificant act of transgressing the rules and looking at reality is inspiring. Being in a minority, even in a minority of one, did not make you mad. There was truth, and there was untruth. And if you clung to the truth, even against the whole world, you were not mad.
Here, here.
Said George Orwell in his very famous novel. Picking the truth, of course, can be very different. Whether you lie to yourself, to the whole world, to your loved ones. But in a sense, when you have accepted it, you can act upon it and change it. It can become your reality. I would rather die fighting for truth to be restored for those who will come after me, rather than fight for my own happiness. Tell me I'm clever. Tell me I'm kind. Tell me I'm talented. Tell me I'm cute. Tell me I'm sensitive, graceful, and wise. Tell me I'm perfect. But tell me the truth, said Silverstein. If you do not know about the horrors of life, you will not do anything to prevent them from happening to you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, act upon the truth we present to you. Please reject this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena, for your speech. I'd like to go up on Pierre 2.0 for his speech. Pierre, you have the floor.
Multitasking jury, esteemed chairman, most accurate bell girl, dear happy members of the government, slightly mistaken members of the opposition, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. You should choose happiness over truth. To defend this, my team, government, has defined this motion and stated several arguments. Happiness has been defined as a lifelong state of contentment, and truth as a knowledge of things, especially things surrounding you. Furthermore, this motion, happiness rather than truth, implies and states that happiness and truth are incompatible. One cannot have both.
Here.
My team has then presented a number of arguments. Firstly, that humans prefer happiness to the truth, and that you cannot always say the truth, otherwise it harms people. That knowing all things is horrible and leads to a terrible life. And that not only does truth not induce action, but that it also hinders dreams, for example, from being realized, and therefore hinders action. No, thank you. Now I'll come back on some points of clash that we have had during this debate. we have had a pretty big problem concerning the notion in itself.
Here.
Happiness rather than truth. Throughout the first speaker, the second speaker, especially the second speaker, the third speaker, and even the fourth speaker, there have been many arguments presenting that one should choose truth so that that could lead to happiness, or that one should, if one chooses to be happy, that then leads to more unhappiness. All these arguments do not really make sense concerning this motion.
Here.
If we all choose to know the truth, we should know the truth our whole lives. If we choose to be happy, we should be happy our whole lives. If we choose happiness, we should not know the truth, and if we choose the truth, we should not be happy.
Here.
This is what this motion implies. So all the propositions about bubbles bursting and then being unhappy cannot be received by this motion.
Here.
There was also another point of clash concerning action, and action, truth leading to action. One person illustrated this with examples of American politics, that easy access to information leads to positive action. And then he mentioned Donald Trump. US is a country where we can safely say access to information is at least over the average in the world, and bad decisions such as Trump are being taken. This means that in all, no thank you, truth does not always lead to good decisions. Furthermore, my side has stated that when one knows the truth, one sometimes chooses not to realize things that seem highly improbable. One that therefore chooses not to realize positive things. Emma also illustrated this with an example. I think we all know here that children are producing clothes in southeastern countries of Asia, and that there is war in Syria. Not many of us are doing anything about it. This side does not seem to wear only clothes made in France. So this does mean that all of us, even the opposition, do choose happiness over truth. Not only Emma, as the opposition shamed. There was also a question about whole human beings, and without truth you cannot be whole. I don't know about that, but what I do know is that happiness is recognized as, almost all psychologists, as a primary human need. I mean, people do kill themselves because they are unhappy. There are not many people who kill themselves because they don't know the truth. This does show that truth is not as essential as happiness to human beings, and so an incomplete human is more somebody with no happiness rather than somebody with no truth.
Here.
You also mentioned a false sense of happiness. The problem with this, you said that people who choose happiness live in a false bubble. The problem is people who do choose happiness do not realize this, and therefore live a fulfilling life, not knowing that they're in a false bubble, which does not burst. Because to know that you're living in a bubble, you have to know the truth, which you do not know. So, therefore, you're living in a real world for you. My side has defended that humans prefer happiness to the truth, that you cannot always say the truth, that knowing all truth makes your life unbearable, and that not only does truth not induce action, but sometimes it hinders it. This is why we beg you, don't worry, be happy, and accept this motion.
For this speech, I'd like to call upon Lucy for a speech closing debate and so on before.
I hope you guys can see me. So let's come to the conclusion to this debate. So, because I guess we want to go home, eat dinner. So, honest members of the jury, informed and happy teammates of the government, kind of, magnificent bell person, ladies and gentlemen. So, for sure everyone wishes to be very happy, forever. But does this mean that we must hide away from the truth?
Is this the ideal way of living? Do you really think that lying to yourself about what is actually going on in the current world isn't worth your time? And is the human nature that shallow that it can't see further than its tip of its nose? Well, to remind you all, truth is defined as the reality, a fact. Those that choose happiness then would rather just live in the fictional world, an abnormal one. Wouldn't you get tired of it after a while? By the way, nothing lasts forever, so your so-called happiness will simply fade away over time, and the more you fight for it, the less it'll come to you.
Put your information here.
No, it's not time. It is known fact that we all should start accepting, I guess. You see, living in the real world can have ups and downs, but that is what gives us a life, a stability. It's never good to be too much this or too much that. 2 seconds. And first I'd like to rebuttal on a few questions that I've tried to ask you throughout the debates that I haven't managed to put through. So you said ignore the truth. So you were the first point of the first argument. You said ignore the truth. So basically you consider that our Syrians, refugees, are not worth our time. You just decide, okay, let's just leave them to rot at our gates because we do not want to know that they're suffering and they can't live in their own country. Sure, sorry.
Did I say that we have to ignore the truth or that most people do?
You said we should ignore the truth.
No,
to be happy. You consider it proper to judge people superficially, so I think it was you said that the history teacher, if you knew a bit about its background, you wouldn't look at that person anymore. So you say that that man could have been the smartest man you've ever met. You've looked up to him, you've learned a lot, but now you know his past, his personal life, and you don't respect him anymore? So I guess 3/4 of the people here have secrets. You know them, you won't like them. You'll just have no friends.
Yes. Did I just not say that I just don't look at him the same way?
You said you would be disgusted, I think. No. Or you wouldn't respect him anymore. I think that was your words. Now, after it was you said that it's better to live your dream, and people that would tell you the truth would bring you down. But actually telling you the truth would make you stronger, gives you motivation, so you'll become better instead of just hanging around in your patheticness, people looking at you and be like, that person really sucks. But honestly, if they had told you that you were actually good, bad, you would have progressed, been better, become a star. Yes?
So I basically said that person that were succeeding in their life were realizing their dreams. What do you say about that?
Yeah, but then Helena asked you, what if I wanted to become a ballet, and I would be really bad. People would just not tell me, and I'd just continue on being really bad. And you said that, yeah, but you're just living up to your dream. But living up to your dream might be not nice to see for others. You'd like to progress. I guess, you want to make yourself the best you could be to actually prove to others that you're good. And so, as a recap of what we said, with happiness, you choose to reject accomplishments of Adam and Eve, or say yes to drugs, just to live in your bubble of perfect joy. But again, hide away the atrocities of Hitler inflicted on the Jews and all minorities. Sure, you could say, well, they're white lies, like Helena said. But you guys are focusing on this. We're focusing on the big lies. We want the truth. We don't want to have people bringing us down saying that, oh, you know what? You're good, but you're not actually behind your back. It's better to be straightforward, and you'll be like, okay, thank you for saying that. I mean, Obama must have been pushed down so many times because of racism. Well, look where he is now. He's the president because people have been honest with him. Now, this house believes that truth should be put forward before happiness, since with truth, happiness can arise, but without it, you're confined to a certain amount of knowledge that enables you to freedom, or peace, or even equality. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, be open to the truth that we present to you. Please reject this motion. And I also have a quote from Mark Twain. And if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything, so you're more free. And I guess, to finish it all off, When I despair, I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants, murderers, and for a time they can seem invincible, but in the end, they always fall. Think of it always, from Gandhi. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucy, for the end speech of this debate. So now I'd like to ask the jury to retire. Mr. Bell, is it possible to, thank you very much, to guide you to a jury room? And I'll wait for them to get out before I say anything. So I don't want to influence the jury. Of course, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. of the jury. Misters and Miss of the jury. Most of the jury. Alright. We had a wonderful example of the Goodwin point tonight. I don't know if you know what that is. But I'm not going to mention it. It's just for insiders, I guess. Thank you guys for doing this debate. Traditionally what we do is that we open the floor to questions to the teams or any comments you'd like to make. Try to keep it short and sweet. And yeah, so anyone wants to say something? Especially sweet. Yeah, I would like sweetness. Anyone wants to say anything?
But the truth.
From the heart.
Now that it is all over, I just want to say thank you to the jury and to everybody.
Oh,
they're not here anymore. That will
Don't try to correct them.
Oh, you've been so corrupted, heavenly bell girl.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting debate for me because it was a really eye-opening.
Eye-opening. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Truth opening.
Truth opening. I guess that's nice of you to say that. Any sort of cross comments you would like to say? Like any questions you want to ask Joe?
There's a person.
There's a person in the back. I'm terrible. I have a bad sight.
No.
Anyone wants to ask something? No?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
I saw a hand.
Okay, maybe there's half a hand.
We were just so perfect.
Exactly, just so worried. You want to cross over maybe? Sorry. Yeah, that's Gabby. Gabby, you want to say something? Go ahead.
For example, the motion was about happiness and truth, and to me, happiness and truth are both values that are not really tangible. So you can't talk about one truth in particular or one glimpse of happiness. It's really happiness itself as a value and truth itself as a value. And I think that tended to be a bit mistakenly sort of blurred a little bit. And there were a lot of examples that were very specific about specific instances of happiness and specific truths about the world. And I think it was more general.
I guess you would prefer to say what you guys would say about it. Yeah, on both sides.
It's just hard to argue to say, oh, we can live without happiness or we can live without truth. So that's why it's kind of hard to just to limit the whole thing.
That's why this motion is weird, because like
you can't live. So no one here chose the motion, so we can safely say that it was a bit weird. I have to safely, I have to agree that it's kind of seems a bit limiting to want to, do one or the other. And it was a bit hard sometimes to keep it, but yeah, you have a question.
It's not really about this debate in particular, but are you allowed to make compromises? Because that's the real. Like,
no, it's a good question.
One team was trying to really make those two notions separate, and the other one was trying to say, well, it is possible to get happiness through truth, basically. So
but I think the point of the debate just is not to come to a compromise. That's in terms of rules. I'm saying the point is that you have two diametrically opposed views, and they come together, and you have to choose sort of one you believe, one that argued better than the other. And when it comes to judging, at least that's what I hope what judges will do on the other side. It comes down to, okay, what were the best arguments, not necessarily what I believe is the best answer. I think I do agree with you that there's probably a much more medium sort of answer to this, and that's the case in most debates. You'd hope that, no, it's not black or white, right? It's kind of a gray area in the middle, but it's not what debates are about. But there are other forms of public speaking, like Camille United Nations, for example, or other simulations of negotiations that do aim at that, at finding a consensus, and it's a very different style of debating, but it's very interesting.
Yeah. I think
you should be careful when you're trying to define what the motion is, because while you were defining the motion, you like brought some arguments to them so they could like, because you said you need to be really to have a distinction between happiness and truth. And the fact is that brought some argumentation to them, because they could say, yes, but truth will lead to happiness, and it's in the motion because you're not like fighting for happiness, you're fighting for truth, and this truth will lead to happiness. And you should be careful with it while you're defining this thing, because you brought some like arguments for them to counter when you were talking.
Okay, so did you have an answer?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, because the motion was this house would choose happiness rather than the truth. So
yes, but if you start.
Let her answer maybe.
So we understood this motion as a choice between two different things, and this is why we thought it didn't make sense when they told us that one of these two things is leading to the other.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to say something very important to answer that I've learned in a precedent debate. It's called look outside the box. And I think that is what we did. Instead of being cornered in our subject, which we could have done, and it's not a bad thing at all. I really admire you guys because you stuck to it, no matter what.
Yeah, but that's... If you were gonna move out of the box and everything, no, I think that your first speaker should have like clearly stated something about like how you're not gonna respect it or something, so it would have introduced all of it, but like he didn't contradict Margot's motion at all. Her definition wasn't rebuked at any point, so that's why we could admit throughout the rest of the debate that our motion, which wasn't rebuked by your speaker, was the correct one.
But it was the correct one. We just tried to, I don't know how to say it, but we just tried to think of a way where we could prove our argument and counterbalance yours. That's what we're trying to do.
Just before, there's a person in the audience,
which may or not be linked. To the government and the opposition, was there ever a moment when you found yourself wanting to argue the opposite side?
Yeah. No kidding.
Maybe more. And following on from that, how did you use that desire to adapt your own argument, if you did?
We tried to ask POI, then we have been rejected.
And so that's part of
No,
it.
but when you were preparing, maybe, when you were preparing, Lucy, you have maybe a point on that?
Well, actually, all of us jumped with joy when we were opposing you guys, because, opposing this motion, because it's more fun to be the negative part, the one that wants the truth and not the joy of it. So we had a bit of a will to become that your side, so the government, but then we were like, we're the opposition, we can be more mean, we can be more direct. And also, what we did is we researched what you guys would do, and we looked at questions we could ask in return of what you guys might say. And so that's what helped us to understand better what we could debate about during the day.
And that's exactly what we guys are doing during the big tournament. So when we try to like rehearse our speeches, we always try to find what the opposing team will say.
Play the devil's
Yeah,
Are you talking
of
about
course.
the tall people tournament?
Yeah, I'm talking about the tall adult people, and I'm.
I thought you were in it.
I'm not tall, but adult.
Joke. Yeah, so it's a fair point. Is there someone on this side maybe who wants to talk about how you felt when you were researching and whether you want to be on the other side of that? No, not really. No.
One funny thing is you know the Morpheus analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we found that on Psychology magazine.
Yes.
No, because we found it too, and we were actually hesitating.
We also found a paper on the bad effects of caffeine.
Yeah. So we were reading the same things, but
Praise the Lord for the first page of Google.
The first thing of Google actually.
I think Google could be like a long-term sponsor of the FDA because it brings all arguments.
Shame.
To be honest. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I would just also like to answer to your question. And usually, when it's my turn, I feel so angry the arguments that I go up there and I use this angriness to prove my point. And last time, actually, I did that. Not today, and I got so mad that like I kind of almost lost it on stage. I was so mad.
Yeah, because like this person made a point of inversion. She's like, "Shit, sit down. I didn't ask you to speak." So yeah,
but
you need to keep control.
Exactly, but it's also about learning to control this desire to speak and be able to fill it with your want of speech and your arguments.
Okay, anything Alicia, maybe she has something to say?
Yeah, it's not an answer, but I tried to ask you the questions and in a really sweet and friendly way. How would you just, no, it's really not aggressive or anyway, but how would you manage with the question like, basically you're not doing anything to solve crisis you're mentioned in your speeches, so why did you choose happiness and why did you choose to be here being happy? Well, how do you deal with these questions?
Can you rephrase?
So basically, you're saying that in terms of, let's say, the Syrian crisis, the truth would be you go out there and you help people, and happiness would be you stay here and you do what you do.
Like, I assume you're not doing anything really huge to solve the migrant crisis, for example.
I'm 16.
I agree. Let's say you would be able to do something. So why, just what would you answer to the question like, why did you choose happiness? Why did you choose to be here rather than doing something?
Even acknowledging them, even acknowledging that they're living in a terrible, terrible crisis, and that it's like, that's the truth, even acknowledging the truth. I think that's something.
But how is that going to help society in any way? I acknowledge that people are dying.
So that was your point about. So that was your point about making you feel miserable, and at the end of the day, it doesn't change anything.
Yes.
That was your point. Okay. So, is there any other comments on the floor? Otherwise, yeah. Yeah, sure.
The moment where I really wanted to be on your side, guys, it's when you said the thing about the restaurant with your dad. Is it true or not? I don't know if it's true or not, but if it is, I'm really sorry for you because I wouldn't. I don't think I'd like to know either.
I had the pizza on Saturday night.
But what was in that pizza? That's the question.
She chose happiness in that.
Right, so I think Shanika wants to say something. Is that
I don't like basically enough. So hi guys, as Peter introduced me before the debate, I'm Shanika, the social media officer of the FDA. So I'm the one spamming. If you guys like the Facebook page, that's me. What I wanted to tell you is that, so we do have a Facebook page, we do have a Twitter page, so sometimes we do like the live tweets of the tournament's debates, and I do invite high school students because I'm really impressed by the level of English, by their speaking in front of people, and I know that when I was 16, I was like, can happen. So I'm really impressed, and you guys should really come and see what's, after high school. So the big tournament. Unfortunately, this year it's over, but we're planning on doing more friendlies. Last couple of weeks we had friendlies between INSEC and ILERI, UPMC and Paris Sud, Assas and Polytechnique. So, and those are like veterans, so they know what they're talking about, FDA. So I do invite you to like the page, follow us.
You already are.
Perfect. Go to our YouTube, because maybe you can see how the debaters do speak in front of people, and they speak better than me now. So that's why, and I invite also the parents to follow us, because you might see your daughters and sons maybe one day at the Assemblée Nationale during the final, and that could be like super cool. So go ahead. You wanted to
Just to
okay,
say,
that's good. Yeah.
if you go to the Assemblée Nationale one day, just don't forget your ID card. Just
Yeah. So because these guys wanted to come to the final and they forgot their ID.
He didn't tell us.
Yes. Yeah, because
Shame,
that's not
Peter.
obvious. Okay. So you don't expect everyone to have their ID on you. It's actually legally, you know, you have to have your ID on you.
No,
I can't do
because
anything about it. Yeah, they're 15.
They're 15.
Yeah, they're over 15.
We're 17.
No, they're over. If you're over 15, you have to have it. Okay. But if there's no more comments on the floor, no more any sort of question to ask those people, those kids, who are doing a marvelous job, or the jury's coming back. Jury's coming back. What a great timing.
Good evening, everyone. So, it was really a very good debate, and I know you all hear this every time, but it was really interesting. We saw that there were good arguments, good POIs, and even quotes that were really interesting for both teams, really. Yeah, so we have had a little problem with your POIs. Either there were not enough POIs or they were not really well made, and so I think you should work on this, both teams too. And yeah, maybe not enough. So maybe when you refuse a POI, then there are no other POIs, then you're just blocked and you have not reached your goal to have at least 2 POIs. I mean, at least 1, but hopefully 2. And so let's go on Ecole alsacienne. We liked your Don't Worry, Be Happy. It was really cool that it came back each time and it was interesting. You maybe had not enough arguments, but at the same time, good illustrations. So it was more philosophical, but it was interesting. And we would follow your good team line, and yeah, you had good eye contact, style, body language, and everything, and rhetorical. But you had a hard time handling your timing, which I think was a big problem, and you handled your timing better. So let's go on Camille Sée now. But sometimes maybe maybe you were too short. So when you don't know what to say anymore, it sounds like you just read a speech and go. So maybe you should wait for POIs or show that you want to have POIs and clarify some points. Your arguments were very good. You did great research, and happily we thought you were too negative about your examples, because it was a little, not depressing, but you see, not positive enough. And we finally showed that Ecole alsacienne won the to point out that the best speaker goes to Lucy. Congratulations, we loved her speech. It was very good. So you can all come to us for feedback. Thank you.
Debaters do go for feedback.
Yeah, you can come for feedback.
Do go feedbacks and go hug each other.
Yeah,
and say,
you were very good. You were very good.
Well done. So, while all this is finishing, a little bit like when SNL stops for those Americans among you. Thank you very much for coming, everyone. It was a great night, and we had a really good fun. And those guys really like you being here. Final is on Tuesday. If you want to come to SS Salle des Fêtes, sign up on Facebook. There will be a Facebook event coming out in a couple of days. We'll like you being here. Thank you very much again, and see you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.